Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Yvonne from GingerChickRehab. So glad to have you back checking out what Chris and I are up to. So in today's video, I just happened to go into Goodwill. I'm a regular there, so sometimes they do offer me certain things. So anyway, the day that I was in there, they had just gotten a desk. It was older, nothing terribly special, homemade type of piece, but it absolutely was beautiful, great patina. The problem was it was falling apart. The more you touched it, the more it was going to collapse. So knowing that Chris is always up for a good challenge and likes puzzles, yes, for $25, I brought it home for him to restore, makeover, however you want to put it, because I always say we are not refinishers. We just make things nice and get them ready to resell. So at first glance, what do you see? Just a desk. But once you start getting into this piece, they definitely, I think it was going to be put in the garbage bin at Goodwill. I don't even think they were going to be able to move it. It's another case that I came in at the right time when this was dropped off and donated, because they couldn't even move this piece because it was falling apart as soon as they would touch it. So luckily, being a regular visitor of our Goodwill and knowing that we do furniture pieces, yes, they offered this up to us. I took it because I knew that Chris was always up to a good challenge and likes puzzles. So I believe this was definitely a homemade piece back in some part of the day. The top part lifts out on purpose, and then there was a whole bunch of other little parts that were here and there, really trying to figure out where that it all goes. But as he gets it up onto the work table, you're like, okay. So you do notice right off the bat that there's just all this hardware. So if it wiggled, they just put a piece of hardware, a screw, a nail. So they were trying to make the legs so they were not wonky, but unfortunately they were even still wonky as they used these braces to try to secure these beautiful legs. And then you go off to the side, they had pieces of wood. As you saw, Chris already removed the strips because they were already falling off. That was some of the pieces, luckily, that were still with it when I got it from Goodwill. And so, plain and simply, there's just so many nails that he just has to go in and cut. It wasn't one of those cases that you could just start tightening things up. He literally had to take this apart piece by piece. Take the screws off, take the nails off, and like on this part, they put a nail in there to hammer it, but as you see, when they hammered the nail in it, then it went backwards in the wrong direction. But so many screws, so many nails. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, see, at the angle that they put that screw in, what it did was just make the leg kick the wrong way. Now that he has it all taken apart, he is using a scraping tool to get what used to be a little bit of glue that had glued these pieces together. The glue had dried over time. There's a certain type of glue that some woodworkers use that does just dry out. You never know the history of a piece. I don't know how old the piece is or how new the piece is, or I'm pretty sure that it was... Yes, it was a homemade piece. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love the patina of it. I love the color of it. And as frustrating as it looks, it is very satisfying once you actually get it back together. But the pieces and parts, he did put little pieces of tape, labeling, hopefully remembering when it comes to getting them all put back together where the pieces and parts go. Yes, now I would never have brought this home if I did not know this wasn't a job that he could tackle. And I knew as soon as I brought it home, he would start playing with it. Every other piece in our workshop would go off to the side because, yes, he does. Even though he may complain like we all do, he does love a good challenge. I guess it's just very good for your mind. So as you see, he is using Titebond glue to glue this back together. A lot of times when you're putting a puzzle together, it's just a quiet listen to some background type of music. And yes, there were a couple of those oh crap moments. How do I get this back together? You always think that you're going to remember. You try your best to label everything. A little bit of frustration here and there, but it's like dropping a piece of your puzzle onto your floor and then going underneath the carpet because the cat had played with it. So he's just working, making sure that everything is nice and tight, getting it all glued up, clamped up, screwed where it should actually be screwed and nailed in so that this will be a beautiful piece to live on for years to come. Now what he's working on, that very bottom layer that was cracked, you won't even see that. This is a board that you can slide out for some extra table space, but the problem is when you go to slide it out, there's nothing to stop it. You can pull it all the way out. So what he's doing now is he's going to be attaching some stoppers so that it doesn't pull all the way out. And the stoppers are as easy as just 2 screws, so that crack part lays lower than the front piece of wood does, so that will catch on it every time you open. That way this top extra tabletop piece will not pull out. Next up, I know you saw those 2 little drawers move that he set on the top of the desk. So I think they were just hidden. I don't even think they were hidden. I think they were just there. They weren't attached. There wasn't any hinges. They were just there. So what Chris is going to do is he's actually going to cut down another piece of wood, make a little insert. So actually he's going to attach a magnet to the piece of wood and to the door itself. So you have another little cubby that one of the doors don't just keep falling off like that, and that it's usable space. Now what he needs to do is attach those smaller pieces of wood. So with the top on, he's getting his point where he needs to nail it and attach it. And yes, this top is made to be removed, so he's not going to attach that. He's going to make it so it is removable, but he needs to attach that piece of wood so that the door has something to attach to. And with the magnet, it's there to stay and not It can be removed if you want to remove, or it can be on if you want it to be on. Just a nice little extra cubby space. That it has that all put back together. It's nice and sturdy. You can lean on it without worrying about it tumbling over. Now all those little strips of wood he's going to go ahead and reattach. I love the character. He loves the character. I love all that wood in general, but yeah, it was a little bit of a hot mess and quite the puzzle for him to get back together. Now this is that hidden drawer that was there. You start taking parts and pieces of parts apart and you're like, oh, there's a drawer here, no knob, no nothing. I don't even know how you pull it out because you just basically have to lean the desk forward to pull it out because you can't get to it from the bottom either. But a lot of the veneer, probably the way it had been pried out, I'm guessing, was loose. So all he's doing is taking some thin set CA glue and pouring it into that veneer, holding it in place, spraying the accelerator that dries it, and just trying to get it tightened back down. There is a chemical reaction with the glue, the sprayer, and whatever glue or product is on the original piece that sometimes you do get a little bit of smoke, but you know that it's working. So yep, we're just trying our best to get this tightened back down in every little area that you can. Now he's going to be removing the knobs. So the little hidden drawers have one type of knob. The pull-out drawers have another type of knob. The piece of wood that you fold down to cover up the whole desk has a little bitty knob, but actually it's really heavy wood that you're doing it on, so that knob is not really weight appropriate. And then we want to put a couple poles on the drawer itself so you don't have to worry about that veneer having problems anymore to be able to use that drawer and pull it out. Even though it's cool to have a hidden drawer, it doesn't really make sense because you can't get to it from underneath. You have to pry something in there to pull it out. Oh, okay, so yes, and then you do see that warped veneer underneath where it pulls out, but it is hard as a rock, so there's no reason to cut any slits in that. I don't know why that's as hard as a rock, but sometimes you just leave it alone. You only can see it as I'm cleaning the piece. So yep, we just left that good enough alone. Now I absolutely love the color of this piece, and I always think, okay, so as I'm cleaning my piece, I'm looking at this going, okay, there's too many scrapes. You can see where he had to pull out all the nails and the screws, and you know, I know a little bit of imperfections is nice character, but if you're going to resell this piece, you just want it to be the best that it possibly can be. So as I'm cleaning this piece up, I'm like, oh, I remember I just did that white hutch that I kept for myself and that cocoa bean color. I think if I can do cocoa bean and do the Waverly wax on top of it, I think I can match what this finish is. Yes, that was a lot of CA glue that we had to use to reattach this. It wasn't, you don't want to try to take it off unless you're going to change it up, and that veneer butts right up with the front of that. So the best fix was trying to glue every little piece down. But yeah, now you need to sand it nice and smooth. Now I really didn't plan on using any more Cocoa Bean by Dixie Belle right away, so I had not ordered any. So I actually went to my local Home Depot, had them color match it for me. So this is what they matched it up, and I was very happy because he was already working on the piece, and now we want to get it painted. But yeah, I think it's a pretty close match. And I might have, instead of going with a flat, I probably should have gone with the Ultra Matte. I think it would have been a little bit closer, but definitely is going to match up all that old patina of this wood. Why yes, Home Depot, I will purchase some more brushes while you're mixing up my paint. I can't even tell you the last time I purchased a new paintbrush, but yes, I definitely like the soft bristle brushes. I knew I was going to need something for the cubby holes, so these are definitely right up the line with their soft bristles. This coffee bean is definitely such a close match that I was having a hard time telling where I had been in these little cubbies. So I'm like, hey, do you got a light? So yeah, that was the only way I could see the difference in the color. So I guess I matched it up pretty well. Whew. But yes, there's definitely these cubbies were not going to be a job that Chris could have fit his man hands into very well. And yes, it would have been nice to use the sprayer, but I had the sprayer hooked up for another project at this time. So how fit do you have to be a furniture flipper? Oh my goodness. So the paint was still wet, and then I decided that there was too much of hot mess going on underneath the desk itself. I love that middle section. I wish it was just like that, but you can see all that. I don't even know what that is on the outer edge. It's nice and clean, but I decided to paint the underneath of this black. So here I am laying on my back, basically painting the back of the underneath of this desk. Only removed the one set of hardware, the hinges on that very tight piece of a board, because as you saw, they were very, you noticed them right off the way, and the other ones were inset, so leave those alone. One of the only times you've ever painted over hinges, but just going to cover these up black. If you're wondering, did I get the top of these little cubbies? Yes, the next day after it had dried, I got it flipped over. I'm still using the light to get the top of these cubbies. I want to make sure everything is covered. That I have it all painted. Now I did test out the very bottom of the drawer. Can I just wax on the paint and it will stay? It did not. It actually rubbed off. So clean that off, and now I'm spraying polyacrylic. Sometimes you test to see what a piece is going to do. Since we didn't really sand anything of this piece, the paint that I bought had primer in it, so we were good to go. But I wanted to make sure that once I started waxing the entire piece that the paint wasn't going to come off. So tester piece first. So yes, I'm spraying the entire desk with polyacrylic first. And now that polyacrylic is dry, I'm going back in with some fine grit steel wool and sanding the entire piece. This is going to make sure that my paint is nice and even for one, and then two, it's going to open up that polyacrylic so when I do go to wax, that the wax has something to grab onto. So now it's the good old antiquing wax. And I know when I did that white cabinet that I kept for myself, when I did the paint on the bottom, I mixed the cocoa bean and the wax together, and that worked out just fine. The only downside of that is we couldn't after the wax had dried with the paint, you couldn't sand anything off, which is okay for legs, but we definitely didn't want to mix the two together on this project because I wanted to make sure that we could sand it slightly and make sure that it was nice and smooth. The cocoa bean was a great match to the original patina, but the antiquing wax is definitely taking it back to that nice even paint job. A stain, I don't know what it was originally, but I loved the color of it, and I think I got a pretty close match. So now that antiquing wax is dry, Chris can get it put back together and start putting on and drilling holes for the new hardware. So now I just picked up hardware at Home Depot. Luckily they had something that kind of went with the era of this piece. Definitely makes it easier to be able to pull down that top, having a handle to grab onto. Wonder what those pieces that Chris was painting earlier using the bamboo skewer to hold on to paint. Yes, they had these little bit of details, paper holder, envelope holder, which is just a cool, fun detail. So he's just reattaching those. Still can't believe all the hardware, either can Chris, that he took off this piece that did not go back on. All those screws, those nails, those brackets, oh my goodness. Okay, did y'all think I was crazy when I brought this desk home for Chris to make over? And I knew, even though he might spit and spatter just a little bit about it at first, and that was the first piece that he grabbed to start working on that puzzle. So yep, he had to take it all apart. But oh my gosh, it was well worth it. And yeah, I do think as we age, it kind of keeps our minds going when you get to work on projects like this. And I was happy that Godwink moment, I had run across that mixture of the cocoa bean and the antiquing wax and how it kind of makes that vintage brown patina paint. I'm calling it, that's what I'm calling it, because I definitely love that aged brown look of this piece. I'm not one for a ton of colors. I just like to make nice pieces to fit in people's homes. So give me a comment down below. Would you have left it behind? Would you like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. And anyway, and then, yeah, I know our color choices are very neutral, but that is what sells for us. And I absolutely love the brown that it already was. So thanks again for watching today's video. And as always, if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you're new and you're checking out our furniture flipping for the first time and you liked what you saw, Please hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know when we've uploaded a new video, and we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye!